This is the Shotgun City Sheriff, the law himself, Clayton Clark.
This is the young titan, Aaron Atlas.
Hey, this is Matt Brannigan.
This is the war-bound hellhound, Bo Sword.
This is your favorite drunken pro wrestler, a.k.a. the Bud Light Brawler, Dalton Davis.
This is Lizzie Six.
This is Jake Something.
And this is the jaw-jacking, back-cracking, God created all men equal, and then he made me the sequel, Rohit Raju, and you are listening to the Spot Show Podcast.
Spot Show Podcast.
The Spot Show Podcast.
The Spot Show Podcast.
Spot Show Podcast. Hell yeah.
The Spot Show Podcast.
The Spot Show Podcast? Yeah, that's right. I stuttered. Shut up.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Spot Show Podcast, an independent wrestling podcast with a few pit stops along the way. Now, before we get things started, sadly, the one-legged wonder, Mr. Michael Madrox, cannot be here today. He's got whatever has been going around lately. I'm just now getting over it. Sickly Wabash strikes again. Literally this time last year to the day, I almost had to cancel the booking because I was sick, but we've talked about that ad nauseum. Of course, I am the Carson Daly of professional wrestling, Dickie Wabash, and hoo boy, the guest that I have for you today. I'm just going to get right to it. We got the Powder Keg JImmy Karryt here. Like, I was going to do this whole big build-up, but man, I'm excited about this one. I am excited about this one.
Happy to be here, man. This has been a long time coming.
It has. It's also a full circle moment.
It's a very much a full circle moment. I'm glad you brought that up.
For multiple reasons, but the one, we may be thinking of the same one here, but the one I'm thinking of is you were a guest on my old podcast, like what was that, like 10 years ago or something like that?
Sitting in the bleachers of Georgetown, the Georgetown Community Center. Filming, recording, whatever for your old podcast, and I got endless praise for that. Actually, I don't know by who. But
I actually got pretty praised for that show in general. I only did like 4 of them.
Yeah.
I think V was the first guest, you were second, Bo was third, and then I did Eric Loy and Titty Nashville.
Oh, I love Eric Loy, and I miss Titty Nashville.
Yeah, I just talked to him not too long
really?
ago.
How's he doing?
He pops up every so often. You know, I don't want to get into people's,
of course.
Whenever people aren't in the business anymore, I tend to kind of keep it kayfabe a little bit for him. But no, he seemed to be in good spirits, man.
That's good.
He's another he's another one. But man, we're already getting ahead of ourselves with this dude. But no, like, here is what I think is really special about having you on the podcast right now, specifically in the time frame that we're doing this. Mm-hmm. Because, recently, and granted, we're going to get a little bit of a bummer starting out here.
Yeah.
I've been in this huge nostalgia mode lately for 2 reasons. One of them, we literally like 2 days ago lost Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball Z, my childhood.
I'm going to interrupt you here just for a second. Because it's one of my favorite Akira Toriyama stories. It's like the only one that I know.
Please.
It makes me laugh really, really hard. So he made Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, obviously. After Dragon Ball Z, he said he was just done with it altogether. And then, or I think it was after Dragon Ball GT, because he got a lot of backlash. He said he was just done with it altogether. Mm-hmm. And then they made Dragon Ball Evolution, the movie. And they had him on as a consultant. But they didn't listen to a damn thing he said.
Why would they?
Right, because he wouldn't know. So, like, they had him on for a consultant. They didn't listen to a thing they said. The movie came out, and it was abysmal.
That's terrible.
And out of spite, he decided to go and make more Dragon Ball and made everybody happy again. It's like,
it's so good.
It's like his whole thought process was like, well, I can't mess it up worse than they did. So, like,
exactly.
I'll just go make more. And it was great. Like, Dragon Ball Super was excellent.
Yeah, I don't care what people say. Goku Black is the best villain that has ever faced.
Goku Black was awesome.
I had a feeling you were a Goku Black guy. Just knowing you the way that I know you, I was like, JImmy Karryt's a Goku Black guy.
Oh, absolutely. And I loved the reimagining of Broly, too. It was amazing.
Go Broly, go Broly, go.
That was the one thing that took me out of that movie, dude.
I loved it, though.
It was funny.
It's for the best. But that's one reason I'm in a big nostalgia trip lately. The other reason, Rooster Teeth is shutting down, which is a production company that I'm not sure if you're very familiar with them or not.
I am familiar with, actually.
Okay, yeah.
I followed them from Red vs. Blue way back when.
Yeah, I think we all did.
Yeah, it was great.
But, I mean, that's a bit of a bummer. We're talking about 2 stalwarts of our childhood to a certain degree.
Yep.
But that's what's got me in this nostalgia mood. So now that I've bummed everybody out, let's get back excited again. I'm nostalgic because I got you here And you are someone who very early in my career really took a liking to me. I took a liking to you.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned it whenever I said that you were going to be a guest on here. I was like, you and I have always kind of had a love-hate back and forth thing.
Yes.
I think there were times where we didn't like each other, where we liked each other, where we were kind of in the middle. And we'll definitely get into that more as we get rolling. But
I can explain that right away if you like.
let's go right ahead.
Because like I'll be honest with you, man.
Can I say my assumption?
Yeah, please.
I think it's that you and I just are so like-minded when it comes to the business that we're just so bullheaded.
There's a lot of that. And my initial response, and this is how I am with everybody, by the way. It wasn't just you. Like it's not like I hate this guy specifically. It was never that. It was when I see somebody that I'm meeting for the first time, especially anything to do with the business, my outlook is always, okay, it's your job to impress me, and if you don't, fuck you. And it's nothing against you. It's just, it's kind of like hearing a band for the first time. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you sit down, you listen to music, you hear one good song, and it's like, oh, okay, this is a banger. Let's listen to the album. And if the album is like that one banger and then a bunch of trash, I don't have to care about them anymore.
Listen, Weezer's my favorite band. I know exactly what you're talking about.
There you go. But yeah, if you like the one song and then the rest of the album is absolute dog shit, you don't have to care about the band anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like okay, I've got this one song I like, but I know that they're not capable of more than this. And that's kind of my attitude towards wrestling as well. Not just wrestling, but people in general. Is like it's up to you to not necessarily impress me, but like to reverse my opinion on whether or not you are going to be offensive to me, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I do tend to take a very cautious attitude towards people because you've been burned so many times, you know how it is. Oh. But at the same time, there was never any like outward hate. It's just like I treat people with a mild neglect until they give me a reason not to. I think that would be the way to put it. If that's probably not PC, but that's how it is.
No, I mean that's something that honestly, in a lot of ways, I respect because it's like that's very old school wrestler mentality. I'll tell you who that reminds me of, and I'm not gonna we've already jumped over the place so much, but I feel like that came from the school of Dirge.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I feel like, and we'll definitely. We've already picked 3 topics. We're going to keep putting pins in, but I have to get the rigmarole out of the way before we get too far into this. I just want to let everybody know that this episode of the Spot Show podcast is brought to you by YooHoo and MadBash Wrestling presents Ascend the Throne. We're going to hear a little bit more about them later. Of course, you go on over to patreon.com/MadBash Studios. Back us at that $5 and above tier. You're going to get this show completely ad-free. That's not all you're going to get over there. You're going to be having paid show over there as well. That's essentially just bonus spot show.
That's the one where we get to bury people, right?
That's yes, Jason V. That's the one where we get to bury people. We've got other things over there. We've got Shit Show, which is our outtake show. You're going to hear me telling JImmy Karryt to bump the microphone up a little bit, probably. Essentially what we do, we just take everything we cut out and we just make a podcast out of it.
Hell yeah.
And then we expect people to pay for it. But, we've also got Danville Dreamers Chronicles, Coal Miner's Glove over there. We've got so much over on the Patreon. But listen, I get it. Sometimes you don't have the extra money to toss our way. You can still support us completely free. You can head over to madbashstudios.com, go to your favorite podcasting platform, hit us with a 5-star written review. Really good way to support us. But again, the big one, patreon.com/madbashstudios. So yeah, we got the Powder Keg, or is it 24K, or is it Cowboy JImmy Karryt, or is it Jumpin' JImmy Karryt?
Oh boy, man.
We're
going to some deep cuts here.
See, I met you as 24K JImmy Karryt.
Yep.
And here's what's so crazy about this is that, excuse me, here's what's so crazy about this to me is that when I met you, you were slicked back hair, wearing a suit, shit don't stink, I'm the best.
Absolutely.
24K JImmy Karryt.
And I got a lot of heat for that, by the way.
Like shoot heat?
Oh yeah, because I started treating it like a business. So I started dressing up to wrestling events like I was going to a job interview, or like I already had the job that I wanted, where I was in a 3-piece suit and a tie, and like I was dressing nicer than everybody, and they thought that I actually thought that way and that it wasn't a character. I was like, no, that's how I arrive because it's the job I'm doing. Like you look at all the NWA champions throughout history, they didn't show up in fucking gym clothes. They showed up in their 3-piece suits with their their belts over their shoulder or whatever, and the Rolexes and the alligator shoes and all that stuff, right? Everything Ric Flair always talked about.
Yeah, not just Flair, like all of them.
All of them. Every
Yeah.
single one of them.
Very old school.
Yeah. And so, like, because I was the only one doing that at the time, I got a ton of heat for that. And it's funny that that's how you met me, because I was so far away from that as an actual person. But you know, it's weird. Another full circle moment in all honesty. It's weird that, like, it's weird where the idea when you start, like the idea that you have when you start, it's weird where that is versus where you end up, and how sometimes they're the exact same thing, but you just needed people to get out of your way. And it's very strange. I'll get to that in a second. You brought up a whole bunch of these monikers and the past names that I was given.
The man of 1,000 gimmicks, JImmy Karryt.
Yeah. You know, like Chris Jericho's got nothing on my adaptability. No, but in all honesty, no. When I started wrestling, I was just, you know, middle of nowhere kid from Melvin, Illinois. Nobody knew who the hell I was, and that's fine. You know, that's how everybody starts.
And you were how old when you started?
I started training at like 17.
Okay.
I wanted to start training at 16, but my mom wouldn't let me, and of course, you know, that's how it works. I had to sell my dirt bike to pay for wrestling training. True story. So I did that, paid for wrestling training, got started training. Basically, again, from the school of Dirge, Harker told me after about 2 months of training, he's like, "Hey, you were ready to start wrestling when you got here. You just needed me to show you how to bump." And I'm like, "All right, cool. Thanks, man." That was one of the highest compliments I've ever gotten.
And a compliment is always great.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's a compliment from Harker Dirge,
Yes.
you feel unfucking touchable.
It's incredible.
And we talked about it with V. Harker has the uncanny ability to make you feel 1,000 feet tall or an inch tall.
Yep.
With just one look.
Harker has, to that exact point, Harker has this ability where he can compliment you and make you feel exactly as you just expressed. He can tear you down and make you feel the exact way you just expressed. But he can also, how do I want to word this? He can also say something highly of you to other people, and then in the exact same way, he can say something that sounds complimentary and is an insult, and you'll thank him for it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I've been in that boat.
Yeah, you have no idea he's insulting you because it sounds so complimentary. He's a wordsmith, man. He's amazing. And we could spend this entire podcast talking about Harker, but you know, he's
it's a through line on this podcast.
Yes.
We always have to, you know, like we call it the House of Dirge. We always have to bow at the altar.
Oh yeah.
And like I told V, I was like, that man understands that his legacy is like still alive through a lot of us, right? And he's like, I don't necessarily think that not that he doesn't care, but it's just like, I think it's more of like a why.
It's the mild neglect I was talking about.
Yeah.
Like I think he's aware that there are people, you know, like me who are still wrestling simply because of him, and the things that he taught me. Jason V falls into that same boat, believe it or not. Like he taught me more about psychology than just about anybody, which I'm sure you can understand how and why. But Harker to the same degree.
Yeah.
You know, I think he understands that there are people out here that are doing that. I just don't think he treats the wrestling business with anything more than, like I said, a mild neglect at this point. Like he's out and he's happily out, and I envy him in a way, but it's in my blood, man. I can't get out, and I won't.
I don't think I've gotten out twice, and you know, just when I think I'm out, they pull me back in, sort of thing. But
I can't leave. It's in my blood. It's also in my hip, bones, back, neck, and shoulders. But you know, it's in my blood.
Well, speaking of bones, we'll probably get into that more later because you have broken your fair share. But
surprisingly, I have never broken a bone in my life.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
Insane enough.
TikTok tells me otherwise, but I would just assume.
It's amazing because I took the video you're referencing. I took a 25-foot fall off of a ladder through two tables onto a concrete floor. Landed straight on my tailbone and somehow didn't break anything. I don't know how I did. I don't know how I didn't. It was absolutely insane. It was the most. If I would have known how that was going to feel before I did it, I would have never agreed to that bump. But honestly, it's funny because like the way that I came down may have actually saved my life, because if I had taken that bump flat and like come down on my back on the pavement, I would have whiplashed my head, and that would have been the end of it. Yeah. So like I came down on my tailbone, jammed my spine in every way possible. I had a bruise literally up to my middle back, like basically at the base of my shoulder blades for about 3 weeks. and walking was utter misery, but I didn't break anything. I have no idea how.
Lucky, I guess.
Yeah, something like that.
But, I'm the one that kind of sidetracked it a little bit. But,
No, you're fine.
we bring it back to, when there's like you said Harker was essentially just like you were ready to wrestle. You just needed to learn how to bump. So then, like, to bring it back to the character stuff, were you JImmy Karryt at that point?
So the way that the JImmy Karryt thing came about, the promoter that I was working for at the time, and we won't say names because I think he got in a bit of legal trouble. But the promoter that I was working for at the time in BWA, if you really want to look it up, it's out there. His son had a fantasy wrestling league with his action figures, and he would like paint them and rename them so they'd all have different gears and stuff, or like different wrestling gear than the WWE guys did. And the promoter was walking by his son's room, and overheard him call one of his action figures Super JImmy Karryt. And
now, was that Karryt with the spelling that you use now?
I have no idea.
Okay.
He never asked anybody how to spell it. It was just, this was how he spelled it when he assigned me the name.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, he overheard that and was like, I like that. And then showed up to practice the next day and was like, hey, you're JImmy Karryt now. And I was like, I'll be anything you want me to be as long as I can fucking wrestle. So like that was the attitude that I took at the time. And then I found out that he wanted me to be Cowboy JImmy Karryt. And I can't tell you how fucking pissed off I was about that, man. Like nothing against it. Cowboy anything is a great intro gimmick to wrestling because it's something that anybody in the States anyway can identify with. Because everybody, has seen a John Wayne movie at some point or another. But I haven't, and I don't care for country music, and I don't know anything about that lifestyle. So, like, the second they assigned me that, it was like yeah, okay. And like,
sure. I mean,
Well, and lucky me, I never had to actually do it because, like, after practice, because we were doing wrestling practice every Sunday. And after practicing under the assumed moniker and under the gimmick and all that kind of stuff, they figured out very quickly that I had absolutely no connection to it. And it was like, yeah, this isn't gonna work. Like,
square peg, round hole.
Yeah. There was no connection to it. There was no tie. There was no anchor in me that tied me to a cowboy aesthetic or that whole style of life or anything like that. So it was just going to be an uphill battle, no matter how I approached it. Looking back at it with the knowledge that I have now, I know exactly how to approach it, but like it still wouldn't have gotten over because there would have been such a disconnect. And I think they realized that more before I did. So happy that didn't have to come to fruition. But then they gave me Super JImmy Karryt and so on and so forth.
Yeah. And I mean, that's just the wrestling business in general.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's all about adaptability.
Yes.
And like you can only adapt so much. Like, we said square peg, round hole. Like,
yep.
At a certain point, you're going to damage the square peg and round the tips. Granted, it's going to fit, but does it really fit?
Yeah.
And like, that was always the thing with me too, is that I always just kind of found myself in these situations that fit.
Yeah.
Because like, I started off as a ring announcer, then I went to managing, and then now I'm in commentary, and like, this is exactly where I need to be. I always knew I was going to be an auxiliary player and all that, but it was just a matter of like, of finding it, and
it's amazing.
It's just crazy.
It's amazing to me that you had that in your head. Like when I was a kid, I watched wrestling from the time I was 6 years old. It was the only thing I ever wanted to do. There was never a thought in my head that I was I'm going to be a referee, or I'm going to be a manager, or I'm going to do podcast. There was never a thought in my head that I was going to do anything other than in-ring stuff. Having done all of the, auxiliary work, all of the reffing, the commentary, all of the security stuff, the announcing, having done all of that at various times or another, I know that I can do it, but it's not where my heart is, So like the fact that it is really, really cool. And it's not because it's not a negative thing. The fact that it's something that you wanted to do and, took it that way and committed to it. I appreciate the hell out of that, but it's
it also doesn't hurt when you realize that you don't have an athletic bone in your body. I am the least athletic person in the world. I did a little bit of training and I built up the bump callus and I was just like, I can't do it. And yeah, like that's the thing that I think that I preach to everybody. Like when they come to me and they're like, so tell me about the wrestling business. Like, what do you?
Yeah.
It's just like I think the one bit of advice that I can give anybody is, and this goes back to another person that I think we give a lot of flowers to, but I don't think we give enough, is Ollie Tharp told me. He said,
man, I miss Ollie.
He's so great. I
Yeah.
still work shows with him every so often.
I haven't seen him in forever.
He is such a wealth of knowledge.
Oh,
And,
yeah. He's the man.
he's my first person that I would consider a mentor
Yeah.
for me, really. But he told me, he said, I'm the type of person that I'm not going to make anyone do something they don't feel comfortable doing.
Yep.
Where it sounds like you had the complete opposite of where it was like, I don't give a fuck if you're comfortable doing it or not. Like, you're going to be a fucking cowboy.
Yeah.
You know?
And again, that's the thing. I got very lucky in the fact that they pointed out, like, they figured out that I didn't have any connection to it. And apparently that was enough for them to kibosh the whole thing. The downside to that is that when they gave me Super JImmy Karryt, now I don't have a gimmick and I'm just a guy who's wrestling. You know,
Yeah.
that's all it was. It's like young, good looking baby face, whatever. Cause at the time I was, you know, I had long, gorgeous hair and, I don't have it anymore. But
Hey, you embraced it long before I embraced it, brother.
well, I did not. Let's be clear. I did not go gracefully. I had like the monk braid for a while.
Oh, you know, you and I think are like only a few months apart in age. So like, we both know the struggle of being younger guys, and we're just looking at that hairline just slowly creeping back, and we're kind of holding on to that last little bit of it.
Absolutely. And it was a desperate cling for me because I'm a huge Shawn Michaels mark, always have been. So like, it was like, man, I really don't want to. I don't want to be bald. And like,
I remember when you showed up to Georgetown when you had dyed your hair black, and I'm like, oh, Karryt, it just makes it look worse.
oh yeah, absolutely. And like, and that was not even my call either. That was like, to say it's not my call is not true, I guess. That was somebody else in my apartment was dyeing their hair black, and I was like, there's leftover. Yeah, fuck it, why not? And like I just did it because why not? And then like I saw it and I was like, oh, that's why. And then like, you know, at some point or another, you gotta look yourself in the mirror and be honest. But you know, the beauty of wrestling is that you don't ever have to be honest. So
no, I remember one time like V got kind of upset with me because I had we talked about hair. I had buzzed my hair, and he was like, "We could have done an angle with that."
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm like, "What?" I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, we just did it with me and Cecil. Cecil cut my ponytail, and then we had the whole thing." He was one that whenever he decided to embrace the short hair, I was like, "That's a weird looking one."
Yeah.
He was just here last week, and he you know, you're rocking the beard. He's got the big beard right now, and he's got the kind of disheveled hair, and I'm like, the last time you had a beard, we called it the depression beard. You doing okay, brother? And he goes, I don't know, probably.
Probably. Yeah, no. Well, and that was the thing is like I started growing out the beard, not even on purpose. I hurt my shoulder, tore my labrum actually. Weird story. I did a handspring enziguri, like a handspring off the ropes into an enziguri, and when I did the handspring, when I was upside down, my shoulder apparently just went back a little too far, and I felt it pop, and I was like, oh, that's weird, and you know, hit the enziguri, finished the match, everything was fine. Next day, I could barely move my arm. He's like, this is fucking weird. Went for a couple of months thinking like eventually it'll pop and things go back to normal and everything's great. And
that's the wrestler mentality right there.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it was. I went a couple of months with it. It wasn't hurting me. It was just like there were a couple of things that I couldn't physically do. Like if I were to keep my arm at a 90-degree angle in front of me and then try to lift it up overhead, it would stop basically level with my face, and I couldn't lift it up overhead. My left arm I could. My right arm I couldn't. And it's like the only thing I noticed that I couldn't do. So I was like, okay, but it didn't hurt. It was just stuck. So I was like, this is fucking weird. I have no idea what's going on. Finally went and got it looked at. Turned out I tore my labrum. And it's my right arm, and I'm right-handed. So like I couldn't shave. I couldn't do anything for the 2 months that I had to you know, have the surgery or whatever. So now I've got this beard that I'm like, I hate this. I hate every single bit of it. And I had the long goatee at the time along with it. So like the first thing I did when I got use of my arm again was shave off the fucking beard. And I kept the long goatee, of course, because it was a kind of a signature of mine at the time. Still will be, honestly. I got to get that back. But I shaved it all off, and immediately everybody was like, fucking why? It was a good look. And I was like, all right, I really didn't like it, but I guess I'm growing a beard now because everybody loves it. So
I can't grow facial hair to save my life.
I didn't think I could. Like
this quote unquote mustache that you see is 3 years.
Oh man.
and it's only been clean shaven twice. But
Oh,
I
man.
just cannot grow facial hair, man. I literally just shaved today.
Yeah.
I will be this smooth baby face for probably 3 days. And then it's terrible. It's terrible.
I really didn't think I could either, because every time I'd let the stubble grow out, it's like I could see the spots where there's nothing growing, and I was like, I don't know, that's not going to be a beard. So I just never tried. And then when I didn't have a choice, it grew in and filled itself in, and I was like, well, that's actually a full beard. All right, cool.
I tried once, but it was so neck beardy.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't. So I guess we'll go with a mustache, and it's like that's not it.
Yeah, the neck.
So then now I just keep the mustache to piss people off.
Oh,
to be
course.
honest with you, I kept the mustache because it pissed off my ex-girlfriend, and she hated it. And I was like, well, then I'm keeping it.
Yeah, there you go.
So then you be like, we were talking about with the whole character stuff, like I said, the first time I met you, like you were talking about how you were carrying yourself, like you come in with this suit, and I just immediately looked at you. And what's so funny about it is that we're literally like your book. I'm tangled up in my fucking cables right now. You're booked in the same building. I'm going to be going to the same building to watch the show.
Oh, thank
it was the first time that I ever met you was at the West Terre Haute Community Center.
Yeah.
And you walk in, I'm just looking at you and I'm like, this guy carries himself like a douchebag. I was still new to the business. I didn't know if I could read if you were or not.
Yeah.
And then you just start cutting it up with me. And here's how I knew that you and I were going to get along. I was wearing an Angry Beavers shirt.
Yes.
And you came up to me and you said, I'm stealing that shirt. And then you walk away and then Bo Sawyer goes, he's not lying. He probably will try to steal it. But no.
I love Bo.
Oh my God. So then that's going to transition into what I think is going to be another good little conversation here because, you know, me, you, Bo, I'm sure if I really sat and thought about it, there's probably one or two more people that are the last stalwarts of what I consider one of the most underrated eras in the history of professional wrestling.
Man.
And that is the UWC Online era.
Man.
We talk about UWC Online ad nauseum on here, and I don't care, man, because that is such a special time.
Those are the exact words I was about to say. It was such a genuinely special time. I don't know how the hell Jason V convinced all of us to show up weekly for no money, and then pay us once a month, and like for you know the big blow off show at the end of the month. And it was like, but even with that, like, and I'm not casting shade or anything. It was brilliant. I would go back and do that in a heartbeat. Is the whole thing
in a second?
Yeah, the ability to run weekly storylines that people really cared about. Like, man, the JImmy Karryt versus Sean Douglas thing.
Oh
is
my
still,
God.
It's still one of my favorite things I've ever been a part of.
And that had just started when I was coming in. Matter of fact, my first big UWC show, and then we'll start the conversation here.
Yeah.
Team Karryt versus Team Douglas.
Yeah.
I managed Team Karryt.
Yeah.
And it was like one of the first times that you and I got to work together.
Yeah.
Like I got pushed in pretty fucking into the deep end pretty fucking quick.
Dude, it was so special and so magical. Like there was something about, and I know that like I understand V's frustration because all of his efforts were not appreciated at the time. Like he was putting so much into the booking and the promoting and the video editing, especially to get it to be what it was online for other people to see, and then nobody watched, and like it was so insanely frustrating.
It's terrible, man.
Yeah, it's still really good. Like it's to this day I actually have a problem because like when I try to send somebody, anytime that I try to send somebody like, here's what I do, here's like what to look at for booking information, some of the matches that I think of that I want to send people are from UWC in 2014. And like I can't send that because it's not representative of me now, even though me in the ring is not really much different. The gimmick is so much different. You know what I mean? So like,
well, I mean, that was early. That was before. I think that, and I'm not going to jump to conclusions here, but I think that was the era of JImmy Karryt where you were just like, Powder Keg sounds cool. I don't know what it means, but I'm now the Powder Keg JImmy Karryt. And now you found it, and we'll get more into that later.
Dude, I can't wait to tell you that story.
I've never, to hear it from the horse's mouth is going to really, because I've heard rumors of like where it came from.
Yeah.
So to hear it from you is going to be really cool. But talking about that, there is a match, and I want to see if you remember doing this match. You may. I don't know. It's one of the best matches I've ever seen. And when I explain it, people are going to go, how? And I'm going to go, I don't know. But it was fucking awesome.
Okay.
It was a thrown together, because those Friday shows before the big buildup were just thrown together.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
V had a Facebook page that we were all a part of, and he would essentially just be like, who's free? Be like, I'm free, and then boom, we would over there. So,
and he would somehow take that list of people that managed to be free that Friday, put together a match and put together several matches and make those matches tie into each person's respective storyline. And somehow it always worked. I have no idea how he did it.
I still to this day, like, he was on here and talked about it, and I still don't fully understand how he did it.
Incredible.
I would say I don't know how he did it and kept his sanity, but he lost his sanity.
Oh yeah, it was gone.
Very much so. Like, to the time whenever, because I was gone in 2015, I think it officially fizzled out in like 16.
Yeah.
He was just spent. But
he was burnt out, yeah.
Oh, he very much was. But the match, it was a random triple threat match. It was you. You're already shaking your head. You know
I
it.
know exactly.
It was you, Travis Weir, and Bo Sawyer, and curtain to curtain, it went probably 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was just a triple threat match. And the one spot I remember in that match is it was either, I think it was Bo, back body dropped you into Travis.
Yeah.
And it was just, that's the one spot I remember in that match. But that match was like, in ring time, it was like 3 minutes.
Yeah, I was literally just about to say, bell to bell, we had a 3-minute triple threat match.
And it was incredible.
That told a perfect story and got everything across. The back body drop, I'll never forget this, because like, I didn't think it was anything special. I just was putting together spots, and like the whole, not really spots, I was putting together a story for the match, of course, but like I had no concept, and I don't know why I didn't, but I had no concept of how quickly we were going to blow through all the spots to get that match done. I was thinking we got 7 to 10 or something, maybe. And, we blew through that so fast. Like, we did it in 3 to 5, and fine. It went over great. But, like, I'll never forget the back body drop, because the whole match was built around me avoiding Bo Sawyer. Like, I did for whatever.
Because you guys were feuding at the time, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Or we were trying to, like, we were starting a feud or something. I don't remember what it was specifically, but for some reason, I was trying to not be in the ring with Bo Sawyer, and he was trying to kill me. So, like,
that's right, because after the match, he set up the 2 chairs and gave you the F5 onto the 2 chairs.
Wasn't that match? That was after. That was after.
Sure?
Yes, that was after a triple threat with me, Bo, and Sam Knight.
Another triple threat.
yes, but it was setting up that same. It's that same story. This was setting up the same story that led to the rib injury, which is still one of my favorite fucking injury angles I've ever done. By the way. But no, I'll never forget the back body drop, because like, I somehow or another, I think I was running from, I'd done something to piss off Travis Weir. I was running from him. I ran into the ring, ducked a Bo Sawyer clothesline, hit the ropes, and took the back body drop. And Travis Weir was still sliding under the rope when Bo started to give me the back body drop. And Brian pointed this out, Jason V, he pointed this out to me. He said that somehow Bo gave me a back body drop. Travis Weir, who is not the most agile dude. No. I love Travis. I really do.
He's the best.
He's not the most agile dude. Had the time to slide under the bottom rope, stand up, look up, see that he wasn't in position, reposition himself, and then catch me on a back body drop bump. And he's like, I don't know how he threw you that high or how you hung up there that long, but it was perfect. And I was like, looking back at it, that's completely true, but I have no idea how it happened. And it happens in an instant, but it looks incredible. And
yeah, it's little moments like that are just always gonna, like, you talk about Travis, like,
I love Travis. I really do.
Like him hitting that Travis trifecta on Rose, 1, 2, 3. Oh my God, Travis Weir just beat the unbeatable.
Yeah.
To stick with stuff that you've done, you talk about the Shawn Douglas feud. What was it? Was it Last Man Standing that you guys did, or
I think it
was some gimmick match? Yeah, but like you just cracking a fucking tiki torch over his head and then giving him a tombstone onto the boards, and then just other moments like, God, like to make it about me, like the moment that we had that chairs match, and I get hit with that boot by V, and it's like Dickie Wabash is finally fucking dead, and then he turns around and just boot. Like, man, to call it special is just.
It's an undersell. It's a huge undersell. Like, there was so much about that time that, like, it's still some of my favorite times in wrestling. And I've been doing this for 15 years now. It's some of my favorite times in wrestling, period. Like, there was something more than special about UWC in Georgetown, and I have no idea why UWC worked out as well as it did, aside from the creative force behind it, Jason V. But, like, it was truly, truly special. And, like, one of my favorite matches that I've ever done, still top 3 matches I've ever done, arguably top, like, favorite match I've ever had, was my Halloween Horrors match with Harker.
So good.
It was brilliant. He punched me. He gave me a heart punch, and I took that down a flight of stairs.
Yeah,
and
he put you on the cart that the chairs were on, and he pushed you, and you did the flip over
into the stairs.
Yeah, so even then you were taking dumbass bumps. But.
Oh yeah, like it's just what I do. Like there's sometimes it calls for it, man. Like it's all right. So, like,
oh boy, here we go.
So, like, don't do what I do. Like, just anybody out there who wants to be a wrestler.
Don't do shooting star presses off of cages.
Yeah, anybody out there that wants to be a wrestler or listens to this podcast and is a wrestler or whatever the case may be, do not do what JImmy Karryt does. But, like, the reason I do these things, in my mind, is because I already know, and there's an element of ego here, but, like, correct me if I'm overstating it in any way, shape, or form. I already know that given any, we'll say common circumstance, I'm not going to say like ridiculously outstanding, over the top, no one can ever possibly make this work kind of circumstance, but given any common circumstance and any common match with any opponent, I can have an okay to good to possibly great match with them. It's just something I know that I can do. I've been doing it long enough that the psychology of it just comes naturally to me. That I'm aware of. What really gets my goat is when I can have a good match with just about anybody, and then somebody else is positioned in a way on the same card where they're almost naturally expected to outdo me. That bothers me. Because like I will maintain to this day that there have been very, very few shows I've been on where any match has gone on before or after me, and then people didn't leave the building talking about what I did. And I want that. I crave that. I don't know what it is. There's something wrong in my head. Like, I need that kind of attention. I need something. There is definitely something wrong in my head.
Oh, there's something wrong with all of us, because like we've said it before, like wrestling attracts like a certain type of person.
Yes.
And we're all craving that.
Yeah.
I mean, we all do it. I'm not going to, this is a general statement. It's like we're all not necessarily craving the fanfare, but it definitely helps.
The adulation and attention of perfect strangers.
Which is a pretty good way to put it, I guess. Very more articulate than I put it. But man, JImmy Karryt and that just huge vocabulary is. But but no, like, and that's the thing, is where it's like this is so cliche, but it's the island of misfit toys.
Oh, it really
where
is.
It's like, maybe we weren't the most popular people in high school. Maybe we were. Maybe we weren't. We're all over the fucking place.
Yeah.
But the point, the point is, you know, we get in front of these fans, and whether they love us, hate us, whatever, we're still eliciting a reaction from them, and it's the best feeling in the world.
Well, and again, eliciting a reaction is great, and that's like what everybody wants. You want to be able to elicit a reaction, specifically an emotional response, and anything short of that is abject failure, in my opinion. When I know there's a little bit of a challenge for myself in here, because like for the most part, I know that I can get that right. Depending on the audience, there are some crowds that are just impossible to reach with your style of wrestling or whatever. Maybe they are more into Gaga than you're expecting. Maybe they're more into comedy, you know, whatever the case may be.
Yeah. I was just having this conversation with somebody the other day.
Right. And when you have a certain character that you are doing, or a certain personality that you have genuinely naturally, that either forbids those things or makes doing comedy a bit more difficult. JImmy Karryt, the Powder Keg, can't do comedy. At least if I'm the butt of the joke and I'm not trying to be funny, sure. But like JImmy Karryt as a wrestler is very serious. So like I can't be doing comedy spots. There's not a connection to that with me as a persona. And honestly, it's not really my cup of tea anyway. I know Jason V's a comedy genius, and he's one of the people who taught me psychology, but like I took the psychology that he applied and applied it to the way that I wrestle. It sounds more complicated than it is, but the reason that I say this is because, like, for me specifically, it's not necessarily enough to have an emotional reaction. I don't want you leaving the show talking about anything other than what the fuck is wrong with JImmy Karryt. Like that's just how I feel. It's a challenge for myself at any point in time. Like, I don't want anyone at all leaving the show. I don't care if you're family of somebody else on the card. I don't care if you came here and didn't watch a single fucking match other than that guy's match. I want you talking to other people about what I did. And I don't care. I don't know why. That's just how I do it. Like, that's
We all have our
it.
own process.
Yeah, I
We all have
obsess
our own
over it. I
process.
really do. And at some point or another, it's probably going to kill me. But you know, hey, then I get out. So
Knock wood. But
like I said, if I'm looking for an out, I'll find it one way or another.
yeah, but you know, you had mentioned that there is quite the story to tell with the old Powder Keg, and I say we get into it after we hear a word from our sponsors.
Hell yeah.
This episode of the Spot Show podcast is brought to you by MadBash Wrestling presents Ascend the Throne. March 19th in Noble, Illinois, some of the top stars from MadBash Wrestling and IWA Unlimited are going to be competing to crown the first ever MadBash Wrestling champion. You are going to see competitors like Dalton Davis, Clayton Clark, Jared Savage, Chris Cutler, and so many more competing to crown the first ever MadBash Wrestling champion. For more details, you can visit madbashstudios.com and follow the links to all of our various social media websites. This episode is brought to you by Yoo-Hoo, a product of Keurig Dr. Pepper. So here's what I want you to picture right now, right? You're on a long road trip, you're driving along, and you're thinking, man, I could really go for a nice, sweet, refreshing drink. You pull into a gas station, and the first thing you see is Yoo-Hoo. And I gotta tell you, grabbing that Yoo-Hoo, that's going to be the right decision every single time. Yoo-Hoo is available in a variety of flavors, vanilla, strawberry, but here at MadBash, our personal favorite is chocolate. I'm going to tell you about Yoo-Hoo a little bit more, right? We absolutely love this stuff here at MadBash. We cannot get enough of it. And you know what? We're going to sweeten the pot a little bit here thanks to Yoo-Hoo. If you see us at a wrestling show and you buy a MadBash Wrestling sticker, you are entitled to one free bottle of Yoo-Hoo on MadBash Studios. Limit one per customer while supplies last. Now, come on, guys. You can't beat that deal with a stick. Again, MadBash would like to thank Yoo-Hoo so much for sponsoring this episode. So, the Powder Keg JImmy Karryt, this nutcase that's coming to the ring with this barrel on his head and face paint on and just looking like a madman, cutting promos in a bushcraft tent that he built out in the woods.
That's all very legit, by the way.
Oh, really? I was curious about that. So you do bushcraft stuff?
Yeah, I didn't start until fairly recently. The Powder Keg character, as you know it now, is the whole reason that I got into it. I've always been interested, but it was as everybody, it was the first Rambo movie where yeah, of course, right, where everybody
has to be,
of course, because it was so cool, and like I've always been interested, but I've just never had the skill set. Now with things like, you know, YouTube, and there's actual training courses and stuff like that out there, and there's books on survivalist techniques and stuff. It's very easy to pick this up and learn. It's not easy to apply. It's easy to learn in principle. So
I have a friend that dabbles in it. He doesn't do it like I'm sure as much as you probably do it, but he's done it like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, it's
like that.
It's genuinely amazing. Like there's something about it that's a really honest challenge to yourself. Because like when I go out on the road, I have a job outside of wrestling that keeps me on the road for 2 weeks at a time. And when I go out on the road, I'm in a company truck. I have 2 other guys with me. Usually I will just book a hotel for everybody and everything's great. But if I ever really want to challenge myself, I will go out with my backpack that's got like the tarp tent and a sleeping bag, and a couple other things in it, and a knife, hatchet, little wood saw, and things like that. And I'll get a hotel room just in case things go sideways. But I won't ever see that hotel room. I'll go out somewhere in the woods, wherever the hell I happen to be, and just exist out there for a night, and then hop back in the truck early the next morning, and they don't even know I was gone. Like, I do that stuff all the time just to challenge myself. It's fun.
And now, see, that's what it's like you talked about Cowboy JImmy Karryt, but it didn't fit you.
Yep.
Now you're applying stuff that you're into in your real life, and like that's how, like, you know, you look at someone like Clayton Clark, for example, who that is honest to God Clayton Clark walking around with his cowboy hat and his, you know, his denim jacket and just with his cowboy boots and everything. You look at someone like, you know, the Bud Light brawler Dalton Davis. That is honest to God Dalton Davis. You know, you look at Logan Myers. That's honest to God him. Yeah. You know, just the way they walk around in real life. That's the shit. Yeah. That's the shit right there, where it's like, if you can take something from your real life and put it into the ring. Yeah. And this is what we call a segue. But I feel like sometimes we need that extra little piece that can come from some very surprising places.
Well, and I'm glad that you used that as a segue, because this is exactly what I was talking about. So in UWC Online in Georgetown, that we speak so fondly of, I
will never shut up about it.
Oh, me neither. Me neither. I came up with the Powder Keg gimmick because I was a huge fan of Brian Pillman, and I wanted to do something very similar to the Loose Cannon, without being the Loose Cannon. So the Powder Keg sounded good, and at the time I was also a pretty big fan of Dean Ambrose. Not so much anymore, but I'm kidding. But no, at the time I was a big fan of Dean Ambrose and the way that he cut promos. So like I was looking into Ambrose and Roddy Piper and Brian Pillman, a lot of Brian Pillman, and early like anti-hardcore Cactus Jack and ECW.
Oh, it's so good.
It's the best shit. Like, so I was looking into a lot of that, and that's where the Powder Keg character came from. But like I still didn't know how to present it really. And so I've been this for a while.
Because we were even talking about, like, I made the little comment here, but we were even having the conversations like, he just has a name. Like, what's he doing any different? He's still wearing the 24K tights. He's only difference is that we talked about it. You dyed your hair black. Yeah. You know, and then I just want to take a quick little segue here because there's one little thing I wanted to talk about. You mentioned Dean Ambrose. This is the moment that I realized that you and I kind of had similar flow with wrestling. Is I was talking to somebody about William Regal versus Dean Ambrose.
Oh, my God.
And then from across the Georgetown gymnasium, I hear, "You got to take it home with you, Regal." And I look over and it's you, and you're running over to me and you're like, "Let's talk about this match."
Oh, dude, it was so good. Like Dean Ambrose getting dropped on his actual shoulder on the ring apron. Yeah. And then Regal beating the hell out of his arm to the point where it's literally just dangling.
And then Regal
at his
bleeding
side.
from the ear and dizzy. And oh my God, John Stone and I based our I Quit match off of that match.
It was so good. It was absolutely
incredible.
Exquisite. I absolutely loved it. Like Dean Ambrose, John Moxley had a world of potential in WWE, and if they hadn't dropped the ball with him, and you know, you can say whatever you want about him and his attitude and who he is now and all that kind of stuff, whatever. Like your opinions are your opinions, and that's all well and good. I loved Dean Ambrose. Absolutely loved him.
Who didn't? Nope.
Anyway,
like that whole era. But anyway, so yeah, like we said, you know, you're just walking around with this powder keg, and even you will admit you didn't really know what it was.
I had no idea how to present it. Like I said, I knew that I wanted to do something Brian Pillman-esque, and the promos and the way that I dressed in terms of like street clothes kind of geared myself that way. But I didn't know. I didn't want to be a direct Brian Pillman ripoff, and I didn't know how not to be. So, what actually happened was, I want to say in 2022, 2021, maybe, I'm not really entirely sure. I went up to do an Evolve tryout, with, Gabe Sapolsky, and it was a Tommaso Ciampa training seminar. So I went up there and I did a seminar with Tommaso Ciampa. I did my tryout match, nailed the fucking tryout match, immediately got put on the show. And I was like, okay, this is awesome. Like I'm getting put on the show. Now I know that like getting put on the show, I'm getting to do a 3-minute squash, and I'm getting murdered. It's fine, but I'm going to make the fucking most of this, right? And with all due respect to Ciampa, because he was amazing, genuinely amazing. He was great to talk to, very receptive to ideas, very eager to answer questions, very friendly, very helpful. he had people of his that were there at the show, like friends of his. So I didn't get to talk to him as much as I would have liked to. However, on that same show was Matt Riddle, Drew Gulak, Kushida, and Kurt Stallion, I believe. And I'd already met Matt Riddle. I did a seminar with him for Evolve before as well. We connected as martial artists, and we talked endlessly about martial arts and how to apply it to wrestling and small transitions and things like that. But the one who really stood out to me was Drew Gulak, because he's a technical marvel.
How could he not? I mean, he's just...
Drew Gulak and Kushida had a WWE Cruiserweight Championship match.
I know the one you're talking about, yeah.
On the Evolve show that I was on. And it was incredible.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about. Yeah.
It was utterly incredible. But like, I started talking to Drew Gulak, and he was just the most, for whatever reason, and I don't know what it was. I have absolutely no idea why he was as friendly as he was to me specifically. He didn't have any reason to give me the time of day. And he had so much else to think about with his match with Kushida. I mean, he's effortless. You know what I mean? Like, he's so smooth. He didn't have to think about shit to do a match with Kushida. I know that they could just go out there and tear it up, and they did. But he had other things that he could have been doing, and he took all the time out of his day to talk to me, and I picked his fucking brain for just an endless amount of time. Anyway, Drew Gulak wound up producing my match. So I wrestled Sharkbait Anthony Gutierrez, and wrestled him, had like a very UFC, like MMA based match. He caught me with a triangle choke, tapped me out, like literally caught me out of a running shooting star press in a triangle choke, tapped me out. Fucking great. Absolutely loved it. And then I went to Gabe Sapolsky after the match, and I was like, hey, what'd you think? He said, that was a phenomenal job. You did literally everything right. I was like, okay, 4 questions. He's like, what's that? I said, and it's the same questions I ask after every show, by the way. Every show to every promoter, especially if I'm working for him for the first time. I say, what did I do well? What did I do poorly? How can I be better? And can I please come back next time? Those are the 4 questions in order.
People take notes, because that's something that a lot of people should do.
They should, and not enough people do. And like, if your promoter knows his shit, he will know exactly how to answer those questions. And Gabe Sapolsky knows his shit. So he looked at me and he said, you did everything right. You didn't do a goddamn thing wrong. I can't think of anything you could do better, and I will never book you again. And I was like, I'm sorry, why? And he's like, because you don't look like anything. I was like, okay, how do I fix that? And he goes, if I knew that, I'd be a millionaire. And I was like, okay. So
then, like, do you take that as a wind is just out of your sails?
At the time, yeah. I was completely devastated.
I don't know how you couldn't.
Yeah, because I was like, man, I really want to do this. Like, the locker room is so cool, and like, there's so many people here that know more than me. And like, the only way that you get better at wrestling is by wrestling people better than you. And when you've been doing it, again, there's an ego here, and I'm aware of that, but like, when you've been doing it for 15 years and you've seen so many people that were better than you just hang it up and quit, I don't really get the opportunity to get in the ring with too many people who are leaps and bounds better than me. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds egotistical, and I know it does.
When you're the quote unquote old man of the locker room,
yes,
there's no other old man of the locker room to go to.
When people look at you as the veteran, they don't look at you as someone they can exceed. They look at you as like, oh, you're the guy who's better than us. And that, like, regardless of how true or false that may be, that sways their perception of you and your perception of them. So like, it's a very strange thing, but I was very eager to be on that locker room, to be in the locker room and do more of those shows. So I went to Drew Gulak because I'd been talking to him all day, and I was like, hey, I need you to help me understand something. And I know you don't owe me anything at this point. You fucking helped me enough already, but like, I really need to understand this, and I need your input on it. And because I don't understand what he said. And so I told Drew Gulak what Gabe Sapolsky said to me. And he was like, so he's just talking about your look. I was like, I guess. He said that I don't look like anything. That's all I got. And he was like, oh, okay, we can fix that. I was like, okay, how? He's like, explain to me your gimmick. And so I said, you know, it's the Powder Keg JImmy Karryt, kind of a lunatic. I'm, you know, like this and that and whatever. And like, I've kind of laid it out for him in a way. I don't remember the description I gave for it now, because it's so, the description that I gave then is so dated now, because it's taken on such a different life of its own. But like, I described it to him, And he was like, "Oh yeah, I see what he means." I was like, what do you mean? He's like, "I don't get that from the way you look at all." It was like, you're trying to be like a deranged, off the wall Mankind type character, but you look like AJ Styles and Shawn Michaels. Ditch the Michaels, embrace the Mankind. And the second he said it, I got it. And so it was like, that makes so much sense. And so I sat down and I was like, okay, cool. That makes perfect sense. How do I do it? And he's like, so you need to get tights, but not like tights, because like every wrestler wears tights, and tights are so fucking indie wrestling now. You need to get like baggy pants, but like something dingy, like something gross, like not even something that really like that looks good. You want something that looks terrible on purpose, right?
Like it was like a lunatic, like threw it together.
Yeah, like something that is literally molding. Who gives a shit?
Yeah,
right?
And like that's the thing to like, you know, I think the go-to that everyone defaults to when you're talking about crazy, it's just the truth. Everyone talks about Joker.
Yes.
That's just the go-to.
Yeah.
And that's why Jared Leto's Joker does not work to me, because Joker is supposed to be fucking psychotic. Do you really think that he's going to be sitting in a tattoo chair for however many hours? You've got tattoos. You know how long it takes. Do you think he's going to sit there patiently, get the tattoos? No, he's not. Like, you look
He's certainly not going to let somebody tattoo the word damaged on his
No,
forehead.
exactly. Like you got to make it so that makes sense, because like if you think about it, if you're this crazy guy, why are you going to be going to Gear Maker with this specifically drawn gear and being like, here you go, sir?
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly what he said, is he's like, you need like baggy pants because no one does that anymore. And it's like, it's trashy. It's supposed to look trashy, but like something that looks gross, something that looks molded and mildewed, and like just something that nobody would want to wear on purpose because you're insane. You know, you have this Powder Keg logo that I had drawn up, it's a circular logo. I'm sure you've seen it.
Yep.
But like you've had this Powder Keg logo that you've had drawn up, you can throw that on just about anything. So do it. But then like if you're like a lunatic that's like trying to like, the whole reason that you're doing this is because you want to hurt people. Like you need something like a mask that like it looks like something you hammered together in your own basement to like to kind of try to keep your rage in, but it doesn't work. Because of course it doesn't. That's not how masks work. But like if you have a mask and then you take the mask off and it's just your face, that doesn't really work either. So you need some face paint or something. And it was like, the more he goes on about it, I was like, I know exactly what I'm doing now. Like all he had to do was like, he laid all this stuff out for me. And I was like,
and he didn't have to do that.
No, not at all. Drew Gulak is the fucking man, by the way. If I can, like, I will never stop singing his praises. Not just because he bought one of my shirts, by the way. He did do that. He's a big fan of the Obey Basil shirt, which is awesome. Drew Gulak, welcome to the cult. But no, not just because of that, but because he took I'm still in contact with him. I'll message him on Instagram anytime I have a question.
Hell yeah. And he actually gets back to you and stuff?
Constantly. I'll send him matches and he'll watch them and give me feedback, and on every spot by spot. He's incredible.
He's one of the most underrated professional wrestlers currently signed right now.
He's one of the most underrated people.
I can't speak personally because I've never met him, but like just in ring, like I really feel like, that COVID kind of fucked him over.
Yeah.
Because him and Danielson were getting ready they were in the middle of that program. And then next thing you know, boom, it's COVID time. Yeah. And he's just kind of left with like his run as cruiserweight champion.
So
like,
good.
And I think that the cool thing about Drew Gulak is look at how easily he went from politician to no quarter.
Yeah.
Like he was just like, he can be goofy with his like no fly zone. And then now he's like no quarter everyone. Like it's, oh my God. Like he's just so good.
He's extremely versatile, and people will not give him credit for that. I understand there's an element of, technical wrestling is boring. Notice the fucking air quotes. I hope that the lack of visual doesn't prevent the perception of my air quotes. But like, when you put that much thought and that much detail into it, it's not boring at all. You just have to pay more attention. I love it. I personally absolutely love it. It's not my style, but I love watching it. People who are better at it than me, I love watching that kind of stuff. And he's a fucking master, dude. But yeah, he went way out of his way to explain this whole thing to me. And the more he explained, the more I understood, but it didn't really take much explanation. The second he said, and I straight up, the second he said, ditch the Michaels, embrace the Mankind, I was like, yeah.
It all just...
Yeah, like the light bulb went off immediately, and it was like, okay, cool, I know exactly what I'm doing. and then I ordered the gear, which took for fucking ever. And, I've been doing things with that ever since. And I've genuinely fallen in love with it. It's the most natural thing I've ever done. And the funnier part about it, so we talked about a full circle situation earlier, and I think this will be a good spot to wrap it up, honestly. But,
look at you taking control of the show.
I'm sorry to wrap up your own show, but if you
I'm joking.
Well, if you didn't notice, I have another show to get to.
No, I know.
No, I'm kidding. But no, like the talk about full circle situations, which can actually be the name of this one. Now that I'm taking control of things. No, but talking about
here's the fucking keys to the studio, Karryt.
Yeah,
God, take it.
Fuck it. I'm just gonna run your podcast from now on. You get to do the plugs. But no, the full circle situation is, it's really funny. When I first came into the New Breed to start training to wrestle, I had gotten a hold of, you remember Matt Bentley, Maverick Matt from TNA?
Yep.
Yeah, I had gotten a hold of him from TNA because he had just gotten fired, released, requested his release. I don't know what his situation was. At the time, he was doing some things at wrestling in Japan. But beyond that, he was doing a band called Lost in Chaos. And, I'd been pretty connected to music, as you are well aware of.
We didn't even get into that. Like, there's so much about you that we didn't even scratch this. You're going to be back.
Oh, for sure.
You're going to have to be, man.
We have so much more to talk about when there's more time to do it. But thank you for the invite, by the way.
Open door.
I
Open door,
that.
man. Anytime.
But no, I had gotten a hold of him because so there was a gimmick that TNA ran that they didn't know what to do with, and I really feel like it had more legs than it had any reason to. You remember Raven and Serotonin?
Oh my God. Yes, because the first time that I ever saw you with the mask on, I had two thoughts.
Yeah. And
you're probably going to pop for the second one.
I'm sure I will.
The first one was Serotonin Raven, and the second one was Minion from Twisted Metal Black.
Hell yes.
Remember, he had a burlap sack with the zippers where his eyes and mouth. Yeah, that was my first thought.
So Raven, for those of you that don't know, Raven and TNA ran this gimmick called Serotonin, and the whole gimmick was torture brings success.
Yep.
He took these three dudes from the X Division. Frankie Kazarian became Kaz, Johnny Devine became Havoc, and Matt Bentley, Maverick Matt, became Martyr. And
he's the one I can never remember.
Exactly.
He's the one I can never remember for some reason.
It's strange because like everybody else had their moment in the sun for the most part. And I mean, Frankie Kazarian's been doing it for so long at this point. He's kind of synonymous with wrestling in general if you know anything beyond the surface, right? Or beyond the surface of like pop culture wrestling, so to speak. So anyway, that gimmick really should have done something, but TNA had too many stars, again, notice the air quotes, to give Serotonin the proper time. And like on their debut promo, they got fucking interrupted by Road Dogg and Billy Gunn and
VKM.
Yeah, the Voodoo Kin Mafia. And
I remember this because it's like you were looking at this gimmick and then they just immediately got jobbed out to VKM.
Yeah. And then they did jobs for everybody. And it was like they were doing jobs on, the B shows and things like this. And it was like, man, this is really cool, and it has the ability to be something, and you're just squashing it, and it really bothers me because like it bothers me for multiple reasons. I'm a huge Raven fan, and he never really got the opportunity to do one of his brilliant stable stories on like a mainstream, on like a mainstream platform that was given the proper.
I agree with you. If Madrox was here, he would talk for another 45 minutes with you because Raven is his favorite wrestler.
Like, I fucking love Raven. Genuinely,
he's so good.
But yeah, so I got a hold of Maverick Matt Bentley before I had ever started wrestling, by the way. And I had asked him. I said, "Hey, I know you don't owe me shit. You don't know who I am. I'm just some kid on MySpace." But like,
so that should date it.
Yeah, that should date it just fine. I'm just some kid on MySpace that you've never heard of. But like, I was a huge fan of the Serotonin gimmick that you guys were running, and like specifically the Martyr character. I know that you don't work there anymore, and it might not even be your gimmick. But like, is it okay with you if I use the Martyr name for something at some point in the future? Because I plan on training to wrestle literally this upcoming year. And he got back to me and he was like, "That's awesome. I'm thrilled that I influenced you. So absolutely do that. Like you're welcome to it." And I was like, "All right, sick." So when I got to the New Breed, the whole premise for my character was Like the whole premise for my original idea was to be Martyr. Didn't matter what my name was. I was going to have Martyr as the moniker, the Martyr JImmy Karryt or whatever, right? And the whole point of it was you have to fucking kill me to beat me, because that's the style of wrestling that I identify with. The matches that seemingly go on too long, because or at least that's how I thought about it at the time.
Yeah.
Looking back now, I know that I would have been way off base, but the character that I had pitched was essentially some guy in long baggy trip pants and fucking face paint. And it's basically where I am now in a lot of ways. It's really,
but just more polished.
Yeah. Where I am now is so much more polished than anything I would have had at the time. But it is really funny how, hey, this is the idea that I pitched because this is something that I identified with even as a fucking 17-year-old kid or whatever. And it didn't land with the people in charge because it wasn't something that they could see me in. You know what I mean? I was a young, good-looking kid, long hair, clean shaven. They couldn't see me being this lunatic. So they pitched something alternative. I accepted just because, or they pitched an alternative. I accepted just because I was thrilled to wrestle. And it's just really funny how all these years later, it can come right back around to being I'm basically the same character that I had in my head when I was 17 years old, but like you said, more polished, more refined. There's way more detail put into every single movement and every thought that goes into the Powder Keg JImmy Karryt now than there ever would have been had I not had the experiences that I have. So, yeah, you talk about a full circle scenario. It's kind of funny how that works out.
Yeah, and it's all thanks to Drew Gulak,
dude. Again,
of all people.
Yeah, I cannot praise Drew Gulak enough. I will sit here and talk him up until the cows come home. He deserves. I won't say he deserves better because he's doing quite well for himself. But yeah, he's the fucking man.
Yeah, I love the no quarter catch crew that they got going on
Yes.
right now. It's just such a really cool gimmick that he's got going on. But
I'm a big fan.
yeah, but all right, well, like you said, you got a booking to get to, but
I do. I got to go wrestle Kenny Calix. I'm very excited about it.
But before we go, Madrox couldn't be here. He would be upset with me if I didn't ask you this question.
Okay,
because
what's up?
He asks every guest this question. What is the most embarrassing thing that has happened to you in the ring?
Ooh.
And if you don't
Okay.
have one, I get it completely.
I'm sure I do. I'm drawing a blank on it at this exact moment.
It was probably at a New Breed show.
It was probably at no, you know what? It wasn't a New Breed show. I can tell you exactly what the most embarrassing moment was, because of all the things that I do, dancing is not one of them. For whatever reason, I'm athletic as shit, as I'm sure you've been aware of for many years. I just don't have rhythm.
Oh, I don't either.
I have no idea why. 2 left feet doesn't even cover it. It's I got a left foot and a peg leg, but it's unreal, man. I can't. So heels should dance badly, no questions asked. That's just how that's supposed to go. But I was teaming with Aaron and Jeff, Team Sexy, with the New Breed, and somehow or another, I was their manager for a tag team match. I was not involved in the match at all. Because I was a single, they were the tag team. We were all rolling together, but I was here, they were here. Which I was up here, they were down here kind of thing, right?
Which was kind of a through line, I feel like, for that.
It was in a lot of ways.
I love Aaron Matthews.
See, and I love Aaron Matthews. I fucking love Jeff Harris. I wish.
Yeah, not to discredit Jeff Harris.
If Jeff Harris had Aaron Matthews' personality, he would have been the perfect wrestler.
Yeah.
But regardless, we're getting off topic here. No, yeah. I got sucked in somehow to, even though they started doing the dance off thing, and I was like, nah, I'm leaving. And somehow or another, I got sucked into it or literally forced into it.
Yes.
And that was by far the most embarrassing thing that I ever had to do, because I don't dance at all. And I'm glad there's no footage of that, because it was at some outdoor Potomac show or something. But that can fuck all the way off.
Well, Karryt, again, it was an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thrilled to be here, man.
This is not the last time that you will be here. We're going to have you back. Go ahead and hit those plug skis. Where can everyone find you?
So I've got my own website now, JimmyKarryt.com/shop. You don't have to add the /shop, but honestly, the merch is where it's at, so you definitely want to do that.
What a worker.
Oh, dude, it's I'm not even plugging my merch just because I'm plugging my merch. It's high quality shit. I wear this stuff around my own house. I'm not even joking. There's not a trace of irony and no shame in my game. Everywhere that you want to find me, Twitter, I refuse to call it X. Instagram, Facebook, it's Real Jimmy Karryt, or just Jimmy Karryt, Karryt on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that kind of stuff. Also on my website, I have booking dates usually listed. I need to get better about keeping those posted, but don't we all? My YouTube is the same way. 24K Jimmy Karryt, I think. I'm gonna have to double check my own YouTube now. But either way, just search Jimmy Karryt, you'll find me. It's very easy. Again,
It's a very distinct spelling.
Yeah, again, Karryt. It will tell you that you mean Jimmy Carr. He's a brilliant comedian, but that's not me.
He is.
I can't say any of his jokes on the air.
No, not at all.
But no, he's not me, unfortunately. I'd be making so much more money. But yeah, feel free to look me up literally anywhere, and I look forward to seeing all of you, and hopefully all of you buy merch because none of you are broke. And I'll see you soon.
Yeah. All right. Of course, you can find me on Instagram at DW_mischievous_rabbit. Again, Karryt, it was an absolute pleasure.
Honor, man.
We will absolutely have you back on, and we'll see everyone next time.
Yep. Take care, everybody.